The name's Miles, Daniel Miles, and this is a dunking of the most disappointing films of 2015. Okay, so disappointing films. Now, these are films that are not good, they're not bad. They're films that came with a ton of hype or controversy, or films that I was personally looking forward to, and I walked out of the screening, and my first thought was, is that it? So that's what this list means. A lot of competition for this year, by the way, but these are the top 10 most disappointing films of 2015. The Man from U.N.C.L.E. Alright guys, so I love Guy Ritchie stuff, I love spy films, I love 60s stuff, so this should have been a really good fit. I mean, you got some good actors in there, you got some good directors in there, and have you seen those beer commercials? I think they're for Stella Artois, where Audrey Hepburn's in and it's all chic and everything's just sort of je ne sais quoi. Stretch that into a film. It's a spy film that's got no interest in any of the sort of nitty gritty. You know, an action scene, they'll show someone having their lunch. A car chase, they're checking their watch. It reminded me of the Avengers. No, not that one. The other, the British one. Sean Connery was in it. It was just so chic and so polished. And in the last 5 minutes, I swear Christopher Nolan took over and made it into a dark, gritty one. Before the last 2 minutes, it all went back to being chic again. It was just glacial, and it was like those beer commercials. And I expected more. Number 9. For 6 months, I spent more time with this trailer than my own mother. So the film before was mostly set in a bunker, and it was all build up to this rebellion, this fight, you know, we're going to take on the capital. And the one thing I don't like is for my heroes to be useless. I mean, I've seen films where the war is happening around them, and they sort of know they're just a cog in it, but Candice has been built up to be the one. Limited action. I mentally played in my head that the budget was about half what it was. The villain seemed to know he'd lost before the off, and it was just sort of a letdown. Nothing can prepare you for the end. No, quite a lot prepared me for the end. Mostly the threat that I was going to have a nice nap. I walked out of the cinema. Opening day. I went to see this film. Opening day. Packed house. Everyone. Every seat full. Walking out at the end. A complete vanilla atmosphere. No one was saying, oh, I like that bit, or I didn't like that bit, or wow, that was amazing. It was more just sort of a case of nothing. The Interview. Do you remember back at the start of this year, we were going to start World War III over this film? Seriously, we were going to start World War III over this thing. It was this big deal, this big controversy. I went down and I sat down and I didn't get it. The jokes weren't fun. Taking the mick out of North Korea? Yeah, it sort of sounds courageous, but it's nothing. North Korea, you just... There's tougher countries to set this kind of satire in. And the guy playing Kim Jong-il, he was really good. He really killed it. And his henchwoman killed it. But Rogen and Franco, they're just the same two characters they always play. Seth Rogen can do proper films. He can do acting. James Franco just sort of wanders on set, has a good time and wanders off it. I wasn't even sure he knew he was in a film in this one. It was dull, it was predictable, it tanked in the UK, and I just, for a film that caused so much controversy, I wanted it to be controversial. And it just, beyond setting it in North Korea, there was nothing controversial about it. Can a film be disappointing if no one knows it's coming out? Yeah, they can, and they can call it The Good Dinosaur. Okay, so Pixar showed us with Inside Out that they still know how to make a good film. I mean, this film was in development hell for 6 years. That it came out as coherent as it did is a good thing. But the dialogue, the main character had, I swear, 3 lines. I'm hungry, I'm scared, I need to get home. I liked the kid, but it was just really weird. The backgrounds were amazing and incredible, and there were these beautifully detailed skyboxes. And then you had the main characters looking like, you know, an FPS, right? When you've got these beautiful skyboxes and your character doesn't really quite seem to fit. You want a good dinosaur film that has darker moments in it? Go and watch The Land Before Time. The Good Dinosaur did pretty much the same stuff. And there are a few moments that did traumatize younger members of my audience when they could be bothered to engage with the film. They were fidgeting and making noises all through the film. And this year Pixar showed us what it could do. But this film is the first Pixar film in history to bomb. The 16th Pixar film, and they have made one bomb. It's an amazing record, but you just think, just let that one out quietly on DVD, guys. What a waste. Tomorrowland. Okay, so Brad Bird turned down directing Star Wars to make this film. I'm going to say that again. Brad Bird was offered the chance to direct Star Wars The Force Awakens, but turned it down to make Tomorrowland. Now Brad Bird, he's done some awesome films. He did The Incredibles, he's worked on The Simpsons forever, he did The Iron Giant, he knows how to make a good film. And the moral of this film could have been quite a good one, you know, care, look out for each other, help save the planet, do your bit, but it was just so sledgehammered in, and the plot was such a rush. This would have been better as a TV series. George Clooney character just changes from one moment to the other. The main two girls are amazing. The girl that plays Athena, she's got a really complicated job as sort of this android that George Clooney's character was in love with, and he's still sort of got some feelings for. So she had a job to make that not seem like a creepy relationship, but it was just a disappointment. It did really poorly at the box office, and I know that it seems like it's almost cool to not care now, and this film was trying, but it just didn't try enough. Beautiful scenes, little connecting them. Too much chasing around and driving. Not enough thought to the plot, and a complete waste of Hugh Laurie. Child 44. I had such high hopes for this film. I loved the book. It's set in Stalin's Russia, in a country where everyone's informing on everyone else in a desperate game of survival. Murder has been declared officially extinct. There are no murders. It's a murder story in a country where there are no murders. You've got Gary Oldman, you've got Tom Hardy, Naomi Rapace, an amazing all-star cast, an amazing book based on a true story of a serial killer in Stalin's Russia, and a dull, tedious, no connection. And if you're into Soviet trains, or you're into your trains at all, boy have I got a film for you. The mystery is really easy to solve once I get down to it. The characters don't really seem that relatable. For a film that had so much promise, and it completely bombed. I'm not even sure it was released in the States. I just feel it was an absolute waste. Jurassic World. Was that it? Jurassic Park is one of the great films of all time. In this film, the characters were cardboard, the plot didn't make any sense, so much CGI that I genuinely thought I was watching a cartoon. Chris Pratt is still playing the same, it's Star-Lord again. Bryce Dallas Howard playing a one-note character, subplots that don't go anywhere, an obvious villain that's so obvious in a film about killer dinosaurs doesn't need a human villain. Human negligence is good enough, we don't need a villain. It made billions, there's gonna be more, but for me, I walked out of that screening and I was just like, was that it? Absolutely anything. Okay, let me break down the talent behind this film. Sanjeev Bhaskar, you've got Simon Pegg, Monty freaking Python for arguably the last time ever. Robin Williams in his final role ever. It's the comedic equivalent of getting the world's finest chefs and them turning out a Happy Meal. That's what this film was. It was a Happy Meal. The budget seems to be about 500 quid. You had Kate Beckinsale in there as the girl. I just think that for a film that even had Douglas Adams, you know, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, one of the great sci-fi comedies of all time, to have that quality, and to turn out this film, the jokes aren't funny, the budget was too small. I wanted to laugh, I wanted to engage, but it just seemed smaller. It seemed smaller than it needed to be. It needed a bigger budget, and with the names behind it, the talent behind it, it should have got a bigger budget, and it could have been a lot better. But for me, for the talent, for what it meant to me, this was number 3 on the most disappointing films of the year, and deservedly so. It is so lucky it's not higher. So lucky. Spectre. Okay guys, so here's the drill. I am a huge James Bond fan. Not only do I have all the books, I've got all the DVDs, I've got the video games, I watch them all religiously, I could quote the books to you by heart. I've even got some James Bond rubber bands. I'm not quite sure why, but they live in my background here along with God knows what. And when a new James Bond film comes out, especially one with a director that worked and a cast that's amazing, I expected more from this film. The plot was so easy to work out. The villain's plan didn't really seem to be that far beyond our reality now. They've bornified Bond for the effect that, yeah, his villains, they're still sort of cartoonish, but they were too cartoonish. Christoph Waltz's Blofeld, I half expected to go into a song and dance routine at any point. Monica Bellucci got so much press, but she was in it for like 3 minutes? It was a waste. And giving Blofeld and Bond a personal connection from when they were children, in the books and the films and the DVDs and the games, they never knew each other. It's like Holmes and Moriarty. You wouldn't make them childhood friends. You wouldn't make the Hood and Thunderbirds childhood friends, but you do it to these guys. They didn't need a personal connection. They're opposite forces. And I just so upset and so disappointed in this film. I liked it coming out. I came home straight from the cinema and bought this film on Amazon. I'm expecting it through the door any day. And it's just, the action was dull, the plot was predictable, the characters were more cartoony than they needed to be. And this is not a James Bond film, it was a Jason Bourne film with a couple of gadgets thrown into it. Number 1. The Avengers Age of Ultron. The most disappointing film of the year, Avengers. Let's put it this way. Watch the 2 films back to back, Avengers and Avengers Age of Ultron. They are basically the same beat for beat. Except Avengers Age of Ultron had so much more stuffed into it. It's not just a celebration of all these stories coming together to make this film and then they do it again with more stories. This is a point that's supposed to be like an explosion for at least 3 other films. And it was so busy telling every story it forgot to tell its own. The villain in the trailer was this cool calculating machine. Marvel has only created one good villain and that was in Ant-Man. But for Avengers, the villain in the trailer was a cool, calculating, logic-driven machine. This one was more like a petulant child. So much CGI, so few practical effects, and the studio put so many demands in it that Joss Whedon retired from the franchise for the time being. It was overblown, it was overstuffed, it needed to calm down and just look at itself and try and be its own self. Try and be its own film, tell its own story with a few nods to other stories. Instead of telling 3 or 4 different stories and starting 6 more, but with stuffing its own story in mainly at the last 15 minutes with an identical climax to the previous one. Without a doubt, this was the most disappointing film of a very disappointing year. I'm Daniel, this is Dunk. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe.